Hello and welcome to another CrowdProperty.com funding opportunity. Today we're going to the development site, which is at Priory Farm Barns, Wolston in Warwickshire, CV8 3FX. Now, CrowdProperty is a peer-to-peer lending platform designed to facilitate loans between private individuals and professional property businesses. CrowdProperty is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority under permission number 723959. CrowdProperty is not covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. There are risks with any loans you make, and just like all peer-to-peer lending, your capital is at risk. CrowdProperty endeavours to protect all lenders. This is done by registering the legal first charge against the property project. This means that in the very unlikely event a borrower defaults on the loan, CrowdProperty will be able to take ownership of the project and manage it for the lenders. So the borrowers on this project are Richard Morgan and Mark Shimwell. I'm delighted to say that Richard joins us here on this webinar today. Together they've set up an SPV called Yew Tree Hall Developments Limited, and that's to purchase this opportunity. Welcome along, Richard. Tell us a little bit more about you, your background, and of course that of your partner, Mark.
We met when Mark was my boss working for a local authority. That was back in the 90s. We decided to go into property development. Mark's brother-in-law owned some pubs at that time, which were all listed buildings. So we ended up having to repair listed buildings in medieval Swan Street, etc. And I think that's where we started specialising in repairing and renovating listed properties. Basically just putting houses back to as they were built originally. And we've moved on from that now, where we're doing property development of our own, where we're buying listed properties or really difficult sites mainly that nobody else wants to touch, where we can see that we can make beautiful properties from these dilapidated buildings. And that's what we're doing with this project here.
So let's talk about this property here. This is going to be a replacement of an existing loan you have already with CrowdProperty, which was for £860,000. That started back in Q1 2019, which was to provide the funding to convert 3 dilapidated barns into 3 residential properties. But the loan facility is here for the sum of £1.35 million, with the initial raise of £1.05 million. That's going to repay the former loan in full. And people, of course, will get repaid from that original loan. They're free if they want to then come and reinvest it back in this particular raise on this property. The former loan is going to fall away. The new loan facility will be raised in 2 tranches. This is the first phase of those, and lenders are going to receive 8% interest. It's rolled up and paid at the exit. Let me start off, though, first of all, by showing you the site and the location where this is. On the right-hand side, you can see the CrowdProperty flag in the centre of that section, and you can see it's close to Coventry and Rugby, just between the two of them there, at a village called Wolston, not too far south of the M6 motorway. On the left-hand side, you can see the village of Wolston itself and where the CrowdProperty flag is pointing to. This is the site plan here, the Priory Farm Barns, just to the northern side of that village of Wolston. This location then, Wolston itself, it's a village, it's in the Rugby borough of Warwickshire. Population there around about 2,300 people, according to the 2011 census. Local road connections going into Coventry and Rugby, that's via the A45 and the Fossway. There's a mainline railway station nearby as well that connects Coventry and Rugby, and it runs just to the north of the site across a viaduct which was built back in the 1830s. The River Avon is also quite close, and that runs through the village as well. Here are some pictures though of the start of this project back in Q1 2019. Start off please, Richard, by telling us a little bit more about how you found this project.
We are known in Rugby as Middlemarch Construction, and we got approached by an agent at Howkins and Harrison, and he thought this project would be good for us. We were just completing a house at Stretton-on-Dunsmore with a private investor, which were barn conversions, and that is just roughly 5 minutes from this site. So we were introduced to this site basically, and managed to get this as a real knockdown price, to be honest, mainly because the barns were in such a poor state.
And they're interesting photos we've got there on the screen, because you're quite right, they do look a little bit sorry for themselves, don't they? And I just want to draw a comparison between the photos we're looking at now and the ones we're going to show a little bit later on in this presentation, because what you're doing is quite transformational. Tell us then a little bit more about this project, because it was initially going to be 3 separate dwellings, but now you've been back and you've got extended planning. Tell us what you've done.
Okay, so when I was introduced to the site, we went to view it and the planning law changed. And I don't think anybody noticed that the planning law changed, allowing you to have 5 conversions on a single site, where previously you could only have 3. So that's when we did negotiations with the vendor through the agent. Their planning permission was coming to an end, so we made them go back in and get Q planning permission for the 3 barn conversions again. Once they got that, which was December 18, I think it was, we then exchanged contracts with a delayed completion. Then we came to CrowdProperty for the funding, obviously, but in the same time, I put in planning permission to change it to the 5 barn conversions. Then we purchased it through the funding from CrowdProperty. And then talking to the planning officer, he said, you've got a lot of steel and tin barns in the courtyard. There's a lot of volume there that you might be able to use on further on the site. He meant, I think, about building a steel barn on the 7 acres of land that came with these barns. I interpreted it differently and engaged my planning consultant to go and ask him if we could have 5 extensions on the 5 properties. So negotiation went on between my agent and the planning officer, and the planning officer asked us to put more volume on in brickwork than we'd asked for. So that was a bit of a win. So in doing that, obviously then caused us some more problems, because we then didn't have the funding to put these 5 large extensions on. They are large extensions, especially the double garage and the extension over. And of course, we've added at least 1 bedroom onto each one of the properties, which has raised the end value of the site.
Well, the site is situated within Rugby District Council, and so the borrowers you've just heard, they improved that original 3-unit consents by securing that consent which had the reference R19/0216. That was to convert the barns into 5 dwellings that we've just heard Richard talking about. And then a further consent was granted in December 2019. That reference was R19/1262. That was to add the extensions to the barns 2 and 3. A garage to barn 3 and a single-storey extension to barn 1. And then planning consent R19/0216 supersedes the previous 3 separate planning consents, R15/0862, R17/1831 and R18/0546, which only allowed for the conversion of the building into 3 separate self-contained dwellings. So it's exciting what you're doing here. I just want to point out that this loan is expected to start on the 2nd week of August, but only after the legal documents have been put in place. First charge security is already in place on this project. So here's then a little bit more about your wanting to do. So there's 5 dwellings here, but there's 3 barns. Barn 2 is split into 3 separate dwellings. And there's the photo on the right-hand side looking as to how they are right now. The interesting thing here, Richard, is the RICS view of the values. How in tune do you think they are with the local scene?
People have been viewing the site while we've been there. Obviously, we've been there since end of September, October last year. And we've got interest in barn 3. And we have interest in barn 1 and interest in barn 2/1. And we've told them the prices that they're going to be. Barn 3 is actually on the market now, and we have a buyer, potential buyer. That's the only one that's on the market presently. Barn 2/1 is going onto Rightmove as a coming soon. But of course, everybody wants to buy barn 1, which is the one that's in that photo, because it's a bungalow and it's got a very large garden at the back. And of course, everything then is overlooking fields, or it's overlooking the grade 2-star listed Priory next door.
It sounds a beautiful location. So that total revised gross development value is £2.45 million there. Let's then look at what the independent monitoring surveyor thought, because they inspected the site during the course of the works. The latest report was on the 5th of June, and it stated the following, that over the last 12 months you've been on site, the works have been cautious as the borrower you're wanting to improve the planning permission. Works are focused on barns 3 and also that barn 2-1 you've just talked about, but they're the ones that are nearly completed on here. It was expected to be completed in Easter, but of course we had COVID then that stepped in and slowed a few things down. The outturn construction costs are expected to be at £1,060,000, which is an increase of 400,000 from the previous estimate as a result of moving from the 3-barn scheme into the 5-barn development that Richard has described. Here are some photos. This barn 3 has now been completed nearly, as you know, 97% complete. It's on the market, that asking price of 650,000 or thereabouts. And it looks quite a stunning property, doesn't it, Richard?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge inside. The valuation, we think maybe a little bit low, but we've stuck to it because of the area. It starts going over above the area. From the drawings that the architect did, which we didn't, we expanded into the roof area slightly differently to what he was showing previously, and he was showing it was like 220 square meters. We've had the EPC done where they come and actually measure everything, every nook and cranny, to give you your EPC for the building, which came out as a B for a barn, and that's amazing. And he says it's nearly 2,500 square foot. So it's another 200 square feet that we've had the price done on. So that property is undervalued.
So it sounds like a bargain then if you have got people bidding and offering on this particular one as well. Going back to the original site plan, this is how it looked with the original farm buildings, just so people have got an idea of the layout of what was the 3 barns. Now, of course, there'll be 5 dwellings on that particular piece of land. And then the architect's designs here are showing those converted into the 5 barns. Maybe the detail on here is a little bit small for us to read, but just do a highlight, if you wouldn't mind, please, Richard, of what is in those 5 dwellings.
At the north, looking at the plan, you've got the bungalow, which is barn 1. And then all the way down the site to the left-hand side is barn 2. And you can see out into the field, he's shown the upstairs of barn 2. Barn 2 is now split into 3 dwellings. So we call it barn 2 unit 1, which is the one to the southern end. That was going to be 4 garages, and that's now a downstairs bedroom and bathroom and the lane lounge. And then we've got the 2-story part, which has got 2 bedrooms upstairs, and we've got 2 en suites in those. And downstairs has got the lounge, utility room, and another downstairs toilet. Then the other 2 are identical buildings then, all but the windows. And we've added on these pods on the front, which give us a main like sunroom, the lounge, and it also gives us the 3rd bedroom above, which is what everybody wanted really. For the price of the property, it needed to have the 3 bedrooms. Then you've got the big barn 3, which is the detached one at the front, and that's just a huge house.
And if you remember those photos we talked about earlier at the start of this project, I want to draw your attention now to these computer generated images of how it's going to look when it's finished. And that's quite a transformation, isn't it, Richard?
When you see the photos of barn 3, it does look like that, except for we didn't go for the wood effect. We went for the grey aluminium double glazed effect instead on the main doors, and obviously the skylights are grey. But other than that, those CGIs are very good.
And works are underway on this site. Here's the latest construction photos. What can we see here?
Starting on the first picture on the left-hand side at the top, that was the extension of the garage extension that the planning officer decided he wanted. I asked for, believe it or not, a 2-car freestanding oak frame garage there. And he said no, he wanted it attached to the main building. Moving down below that one, that is the front now of barn 2 unit 1. And you can see like a grey wall to the side, which is the extension pod for unit 2.2, which has got to be cedar wood clad. The middle top photo is from the field looking back. And although you can see scaffolding on the left hand of the picture, that is barn 2 unit 3 with the floor just gone in, and the floor, and if you look to the right hand side, you'll see the roof ready to go on I think it's going to go on Tuesday. The picture below, that's an old photo I found when we purchased it, when I was up on the scaffolding looking at barn 2 unit 1, and those are the garages, which are now the lounge and downstairs bedroom of unit 2-1. The bottom right hand photo is inside barn 3, and that's a brick fireplace with a specially stone cut slab on the top, and those are the powder coated windows looking out that are shown on that CGI. All got underfloor heating. The lounge has got oak flooring, as you can see, engineered wood, and the rest of the flooring is a tile floor downstairs.
So that's the outside. We've got some computer generated images next of the inside of barn 2 section 1, and this is indicative of how it's going to look on the inside when we put furniture in there and how it could look for people living there.
The middle lower photo is the ground floor bedroom, and the other photos of the kitchen, they are spot on, to be fair. It's starting to look like that now. The only thing that's not showing on those photos is the lounge. I just didn't do one of the lounge, to be honest.
Who is buying these kinds of properties? What kind of a person?
Mainly the people who live in the village and surrounding areas are the people who want to buy these because they don't want to move out. So the couple, I haven't met them, but my business partner has. Mark's met them, who want to buy barn 3. They've got a large house in the village already, and they don't want to move out the village. So they've already said they'll put a huge deposit down on this barn, but we're still negotiating. I've had 3 people from the local area. One, I've got the lady's number to phone. She's a local landlord, and she owns 6 properties round the corner, and she's living in a massive property at the moment, which is too big for her, and she wants to live in a community because she says she'll feel safer knowing that someone will notice if anything happens to her, and that's her point of view, not mine. She wants to buy the barn 1 as a bungalow, and then I've had another young couple who are interested in barn 2 unit 1. They are trying to sell their house at the moment, so I'm carrying on with my plans as shown on that barn 2-1 at the moment, but they're thinking about making the whole of the upstairs just one big bedroom, they were saying. Other people are looking to downsize, but just want a community area to move to where they can leave the property, travel, and come back knowing that people are going to be collecting the post and there's no passing traffic. There's only fields to the back, but the neighbours are going to be keeping an eye on the property while they're away.
So let's have a look then at the overview then of the project financials and the proposed loan. Current market value is £1.226 million. That's been verified by RICS. The estimated build cost is £1,060,000. That's a quantity surveyor's estimate. And the total gross development value of the completed development, £2.45 million, again verified by RICS. The existing debt of £860,000 and the interest, which is approximately £90,000. Now, CrowdProperty hold £205,000 of the lender's monies. Currently, it's available for further drawdown, but is being withheld until refinance is in place. The day one raise was £1,050,000. After repaying the existing lenders, the borrower will then have £305,000 in the wallet. That's for further drawdowns on the conversion works, with a second raise of £300,000 to follow. The remainder is drawn in multiple phases based on the independent monitoring surveyor's verification, and the exit strategy is to sell once the works have been completed. Now, this loan is targeted to start on the 14th of August 2020. The remaining loan is drawn down in phases based on the independent monitoring surveyor's verification. Initial loan to value 60.7%. The amount loan to gross development value at the project completion is 55.1% excluding interest. And when you include that interest, if it goes full term, it's 60.1%. It's secured with the first charge against the property. It's paying 8% per annum interest to people investing on this project, and that interest is going to be paid at the end of the project. The loan period is 12 months with repayment in phases at any time and expected as the seller sells the units at different times. So thanks for explaining everything to us, Richard. The next steps are to make sure that people understand this loan. It's important to carry out your own due diligence both on this project and the development team, and then decide how much you would like to lend. CrowdProperty.com is the place to be to pledge on launch. The necessary anti-money laundering checks will be carried out, and then you'll be invited to send your funds to your very own online e-wallet, and then you'll start earning that interest on completion of the loan agreement. So thank you for watching this webinar. This is the Priory Farm Barns, Wolston in Warwickshire, CV83FX. This is phase 1 of a 2-phase raise where we're looking to raise £1.05 million on this section of the project, and the loan is targeted to start on the 7th of August. Thanks for watching this webinar. We look forward to you joining us again soon back here at CrowdProperty.com.